I used to be into urbex back in the day. I still am, but I visit fewer locations these days. I'm too busy with work, school, and other things to find the time. A few years ago, I noticed that a location close to my area had opened up. The gate had actually been broken down and literally run over. My guess was that the site was going to be demolished soon, and some contractors were just starting to poke around. While it wasn't a populated area, at certain times of day there was bound to be no one else around. The next morning, I grabbed my flashlight and some warm clothes and headed out before dawn. The site was a small business complex sort of a deal. It was a small two-story office block, a large shed, and a smaller building I never quite worked out the purpose of. The site was surrounded by a tall brick fence. Trees and bushes had overgrown the back of the site, just behind the office block. You could tell there was something else behind all the overgrowth, but you couldn't see what it was. When I went in, the small building had already been stripped. Copper ripped out, fixtures missing, parts of the floorboard were ripped up. There were signs people had been there. Fast food packaging, empty beer bottles, and a pile of cigarette butts. The small building was basically empty, so aside from poking my head in for a bit, I left it be. The small shed turned out to be used for storage. It was 2 stories. The bottom was full of chemicals and other things leaking out all over the place. I ended up with a horrible headache for a couple of days after going in there. I hadn't been expecting it, so I didn't have a mask with me at the time. The top level of the shed was some kind of document storage, and that was where I found stacks of old invoices, calendars, and other documentation. I found some old invoices, and the newest date I found anywhere was January 1991. I never found out what the location was actually used for, but whatever it was ended in the 90s. After checking out the small building and the shed, I turned my attention to the 2-story office building. This was the real meat and potatoes of the trip, and it was what I was looking forward to the most. I went in through an open door and explored the bottom floor. It was 5 to 6 rooms, all carpeted. Most of the rooms had been emptied out of furniture, so while it was nice going back into what little 80s decor still existed, there wasn't much to see, unfortunately. So I headed upstairs. As I climbed the stairs, I finally got a look at the other site, just behind the one I was in. On the other side of all that overgrowth was a large, open concrete pad. Grass had sprung up from the cracks between concrete slabs, and it was this weird grey-green lattice, like grid paper but made of concrete and wild grass. The pad was surrounded by large concrete walls, all topped with barbed wire. In the center of the concrete pad was a large stone fountain, long since dried up and covered with lichen. The site looked gorgeous in the early morning light, desolate in the way you only experience on urbex trips. I made a mental note to come back another day and see if I could get over to that side to take a closer look around, but continued upstairs for now. Upstairs was similar to downstairs, 5 to 6 rooms, all carpeted. There was a little bit more furniture left, some curtains here and there. The place was a little musty, but despite its age, it didn't seem mouldy or in disrepair. It was like somebody had closed the doors one day, and then 20 or so years later, I was walking around up there. After a few more minutes, I'd seen all there was to see, so I headed downstairs. As I was walking downstairs, I deliberately took out of the window to eye that large concrete space again. But as I did so this time, my stomach dropped. There, on the inside of the fence, facing the building I was in, which had been bare concrete 10 to 15 minutes ago, now showed red. A syrupy red substance tarred the grey concrete. The words, "I'm watching you," stark against the grey. There was no way I'd missed words that huge the first time I looked outside. I'd only been upstairs maybe 15 minutes at most. I had no idea who wrote it, and more importantly, where they were right now, so I ran downstairs and got out of there ASAP. On my way out, I didn't see anyone, but I thought I could hear something rustling in the overgrowth between the two buildings. The site was demolished a few years ago, and an apartment complex sits there now. To this day, I have no idea who was out there that morning. I have no idea how they got into that concrete yard. Most of all, I have no idea how long they were watching me.